Thanks to everybody for joining us. My name is Blair Murphy. I'm the curator of exhibitions at Arlington Arts Center. And I'm really happy to be here today with Gal Cohen, who is part of our summer online exhibition called By Proxy. And if you're not familiar with Arlington Arts Center and you've never been to our space, we are based in Arlington, Virginia, and are in a pretty spacious building. We have an exhibition program and an education program and a residency program with artist studios. So under normal circumstances, our programming really revolves around being in the space and showing work and having workspace for artists and classes. And we have been closed to the public since mid-March. So we've been really trying out a lot of new things, having a lot of what would have previously happened in the space now happening online. So we're doing online workshops, online summer camp for kids, if anyone is interested, which is still registering. And then we have By Proxy, which is our summer online exhibition. We're doing a lot of programming for By Proxy, so we're happy to be doing the talk today with Gal, and are doing sort of talks with the artists throughout the summer, a couple of performances, a few artists are making new work, which is really exciting. So the hub for the exhibition is on our website, which is arlingtonartscenter.org. Each artist has a page on the site, and then a lot of the work is also appearing on other platforms, so on our Instagram page, on links to the artists' Instagram pages, and in events like this where we're doing talks and performances. So sort of spread out across different platforms. Please check that out. It's been sort of fun to figure out how to experiment with these different options of doing an online exhibition. And like I mentioned, really happy to be here today with Gal Cohen and to have her project Quarantine Dream House Machine as part of the exhibition. Gal is a New York City-based visual artist who works in painting and printmaking. She's an artist in residence right now at Cornerstone Studios, a scholarship artist at Manhattan Graphic Center Studios, and a recent alumni of the AIM Fellowship at the Bronx Museum of the Arts, and also a Shishama Space to Connect artist in residence for 2019-2020. She holds an MFA in Fine Arts from Parsons School of Design, and also a BFA in Fine Arts from Bezalel Academy in Jerusalem. And she's participated in residencies and solo and group exhibitions in Israel, Canada, France, and the US for the country. So thank you so much for being here with us. And we're gonna start off with an introduction about the project, and then we'll have some time for question and answers after that.
So hi everybody, hi Blair. Thank you so much. Do you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Do you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, hosting me here. I'm happy to be here and to tell you about Quarantine Dream House Machine, my project that is part of By Proxy exhibition. So I'm gonna share screen right now, and I'm gonna start. So basically, do you see it? Everybody sees the screen shared? Okay, so Quarantine Dream House Machine it's basically a project that started during the quarantine days, somewhere in mid-April, where it all started with just me being very frustrated from not having a big enough space for myself in my home. I'm living with my wife and my 2-year-old toddler, and it's a very small apartment in terms of to be quarantined at. In any other day it's good, but not to be stuck in and not to have any space for my studio was closed, obviously, like everything else. So we started thinking what would an ideal house would be in this situation, in these current circumstances. But I didn't really have any answer for that. And on a very casual post on Instagram, as you see here, I shared screen the post itself. I just created this very simple Photoshop, very basic rendering of a house. And I posted the question near it, if you'd share with me your dream house, I may make a drawing out of it. Come on, try me. And I saw it as a tease question, but I didn't really know if anybody would react to that, or you know, it was just a post like any other post I would post in my Instagram. But very, very quick after posting that post, I got the first house description, which I'll show you in a minute. So I would just like to talk about the process before, and then I'll start showing you some houses and how I created them and the process of digital painting, basically, and visualizing dream houses based on descriptions. So the first description arrived, and I was very happy, and I'm like, hey, I can do that. And then I created in Photoshop a house, and I posted it back on Instagram, tagging the person who sent me the description in private, right? So she sent me the description in private, and I posted it and tagged, and it said something like, I hope you enjoy your dream house made with love by Quarantine Dream House Machine. So I treat this project as not Gal Cohen, who is the creator of these houses, but the machine called Quarantine Dream House Machine. To be more, to have a certain distance from it, but also to create those houses as a machine, right? It's not something that I did. It's a machine that gets a description of a house and puts out the house, right? It's like a printer or something of that sort. So that's basically the process. So once I uploaded that, I shared that house, other people immediately sent me their descriptions, and then after sharing their houses back, other people came. So it kind of like started rolling, and it started from more familiar people sharing with me descriptions, but then it expanded to less familiar people who just follow me on Instagram but never met me, or even people who didn't follow me on Instagram and saw this project rolling on social networks, in other people's feed that shared it. So it has its own nature of rolling and expanding this project. And so far there are 28 houses. I'm currently working on the next one. And I want to talk about a little bit about the dream houses themselves and how I create them. Because it did start as something very basic, and it got more and more complicated and detailed as I went. So this is house number one. This is the first house I received. So it's Arit's dream house. Every house I call it by the person who asked it, and dream house, right? So it's very personal, but also, if you don't know them, it's just a name, right? So she wrote, I wish I was in a house with a simple cube on the beach with a big window. So I was lucky enough that my first house was also very minimalistic with the description. As we go, you'll see that people got really, really, really descriptive with what they wanted and very specific. That challenged me throughout the way. But this first house was very basic with what she asked. And I was very basic with what the machine created, right? So I must say, I'm a painter. I'm a real painter, like painting, and I don't have any experience with digital painting. So as you see, I basically did here nothing in terms of skills and Photoshop functions. So it came out from the very basic description that she asked, but also from my poor skills in Photoshop at the time. We were talking about 3 months ago or 2 months ago. And that was the first house I did. So it's a basic square on a different background. And I did insert here in the middle an ocean view because she asked for a house on the beach. And I imagined it as the windows would look into the sea, right? Here I'm jumping to house number 4. So this is the 4th house I received. And it goes like that. C's dream house, a round country house, baby blue and wooden colors, a fireplace and spaces to lay down and chill, tons of daylight, nature inside the house, and lots of privacy. So again, as you see, it's very basic. You can see a little development from the first house in terms of the curves. It's not only squares by now, and the perspective view that I created with the deck. But again, very, very basic. I didn't really know how to work with the medium, and it's like the description motivated me to learn some other techniques and functions in Photoshop so I'm able to create what they wanted, right? But it's not that I knew from before how to create it. It came with a project and with the descriptions. So yeah, you can see here, my own personal touch of the moon, and it's developing. And then house number 7 is a very special house. And maybe I'll read the description and then I can share why it's so special and why it doesn't really look like a house. So Noah's dream house. My dream house looks like the one my father had planned for me before he passed away. I remember from his plan 4 bedrooms and a square-shaped patio surrounded by a kitchen and the living room. Clean, simple lines, a square within a square, nature inside and out, wide windows and shades, lots of space, and blurred boundaries between the interiors and exteriors, but no close neighbors around, so there's lots of privacy. So this is a very highly descriptive and emotional description I found. And I didn't feel comfortable creating a house like the other houses that I made because it's already based on a house that her father imagined. So I just wanted to keep it very inspirational and poetic, let's say, not to enforce a house according to my own vision of what it is, and just follow the description and the memory that she has from her father's plans of a house. So that was the outcome for this house. So there are different approaches to how I approach making those houses. As you see, we're jumping to house number 12. It's Dana's dream house. So Dana asks for a spacious 1-story house that leads into a big green backyard filled with plants and sun. Here you can see I'm already starting to play with the medium to understand better how to use it, to manipulate it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't yet realize I can do something that I can do in the next houses that I'll show you, but I did understand that I can play with interior and exterior and plant life and to create what she asked for in my own views of a house. This is 2 houses later, house number 14, it's Yael's dream house. So here I realized I can incorporate also trees and outside or nature views in my paintings, right? It's a digital painting, it can include whatever I want it to include. It's not, I mean, I'm not committed to any one medium. It's basically a collage. So what I did here basically is I asked for my mother to, okay, that person asked for a house with a eucalyptus tree, with a view for a eucalyptus tree. And this is a tree behind my parents' house in my hometown, where I grew up in. I asked for my mother one day if she can go outside and take some shots from this tree because I want to include it in one of the houses. And more so, the rendering of this house is based on my neighbor's house, my real neighbor's house, who passed away a few years ago, but his house is still standing there. Like you can basically see here my childhood or my past childhood in this specific house. So as you see, I put a lot of my own personal memories, dreams, and whatnot, fantasies, wishes, what I miss in my hometown. I put a lot of it in those houses. So it's other people's requests, but obviously they go through my own processing and imaginary world and whatnot. So it's all together. Okay. House number 17. That's a house, I put it here to show you an example for a very descriptive house. What people came to ask me, so it goes like that. Valerie's dream house. So my dream house is not far from my now house. A bright open space with high ceilings and a beautiful early tiled floor. It could be a wooden one as well. Many plants inside and 2 balconies, one facing a lush tree, the other facing the sea, with mountains behind. The bedroom faces sunset and has a large glass door to the balcony for a holiday vibe all year round. I have lovely neighbors, but also full-on privacy to host, listen to music, or just sing loud to myself without considering anyone. And an important feature, the sun shines deeply into the spaces with her rays scanning the floor, allowing for indoor sunbathing. Oh, and it has a bath also, towards the green tree. And last, an outdoor shower on the green-facing balcony. So she really got into it, and I love it that she dreamt so specifically about what she'd want, not only in terms of like the space, but also what she could do in the space and how she would hang out there. And these are challenging descriptions for me to create, right? How can I approach and visualize all of these? So obviously I can't, right? I can't do all of it, and but I do most of it, and I let it sink in with my own with myself for a few days. If I get such a description, obviously it's not something that can be made in an hour or two. So some houses will take me a few days to a week even, to just process it and sit with it and imagine it and basically live in that house in my own head until I understand how to try to figure it out visually. So you can also see that my Photoshop skills are getting more and more, I don't know, fancy or whatever, more sophisticated, I would say. I understand how I want to incorporate like photography landscape versus the digital painting qualities. And house number 22, I put it here because I really liked the house description. Also, something else came into my set of skills, which is the Wacom. So I had a birthday, and Mika, my wife, she bought me a Wacom, the digital pen that I can not only use the mouse to do the digital works, but also the closest it is to real drawing, right? I draw on a pad, and whatever lines I do there shows on the screen. So you can see how it became more organic, the lines, more sketchy-like. They're not just straight squares or geometric, very, very strict geometric lines. They're more of like, I did it, I drew it with my own bare hands as much as possible. So I'm gonna read that. Lee's Dream House. Lee's one of those people who have never followed me before. They saw this project rolling on other people's feed, and they approached me. So she's one of the people that I was not familiar before the project. But again, I will approach her description in the same importance level and motivation that I will approach my sister's description, right? Because it's a machine, I would approach all of these houses in a very democratic way. Okay, Lee's Dream House. 3-bedroom penthouse with a huge open plan kitchen and dining area. Main bedroom with views and pool deck area on the same floor. 1 guest room. And the other room turned into a home office. That's just a rough idea of what I have in mind. So obviously she asked for a lot of things that are interior in terms of an office and a guest room and all of that. And I try to keep it from the exterior, but hopefully these spaces will be inside this dream house as well. This is one of the most recent houses, Laura's dream house. I loved her description. And again, you can see in terms of the technique that I used here, I kind of like combined the geometric lines of the computer work and then the organic lines of my own Wacom work, the digital pen. And also the wildlife from outside, the lush trees and whatnot. And Laura is another person that I didn't know from before. She approached me again from other people's houses that she saw somewhere on social media. Laura's dream house. I want light, lots of large windows looking out on lush vegetation. I want a long table to work, art, my big black dog, and some hidden places. A 1916s modern house with lots of cutouts, built-in shelves from floor to ceiling, and a ladder, lots of light. So again, how will I create this kind of like a library with a ladder or all kinds of things that are usually part of interior design in a house? Obviously, I'm not interested in doing that, and I don't want it to become too designy. So I try to represent it in my own visual ways. let's say I would look at these lines here as books, as bookshelves, for instance, or like this is how I would try to incorporate her wishes into my own visual style or wants. This is one of the last houses that I'm gonna show, and also that I did. House number 26, it's Lily's dream house. The house will be on a mountain surrounded by forests, 2 floors, large balcony on the 2nd floor, brick walls, tiled roof, and a lot of long and narrow windows. Finally, if it's practical, a large transparent recording studio with a view of the forest. So again, here you can see that my organic lines versus the digital. Here it's like, I would say 95% organic lines working with the Wacom versus this one, which is more of like a mix, right, of geometric straight lines and digital pen lines. And yes, I try to envision it, the mountains, the forests, how do I approach it? I can approach it in so many ways, and I always try to look for some new ways, find some new Photoshop magic tools to help me visualize these requests without it repeating itself, right? I want every house to be unique and special and not like other houses. So every house is a challenge in many senses, but in that sense as well. And last but not least, before I move to questions, is house number 23 by Lilan. Lilan's House of Dreams. My dream house is a house on wheels. It is a fantasy, so it makes no sense. What it does have is 2 floors and even a small yard for a cat. It is surrounded by greenery and has a tree house. I can travel with this house. The views alternate between desert, green landscapes, sea, and even snow sometimes. There is always a lot of quiet around. There is a nice roof to sit under with a shed and colorful little flags, and when the house is parked, I can open the porch and there is tons of space in the air. And this was one of my most favorite houses just because of the option to move with it and to be mobile and not to be grounded to one specific place or land. And as an immigrant and somebody who splits her life and soul between 2 places, I really relate to a house on wheels. Even not in quarantine, right? Just as an existential experience of living where I can travel and be in many places and still be in my own home at the same time. Not feel like a visitor somewhere, but yeah, so I try to show you today a few approaches, few ways of how I approach making the house, what I relate to, how I approach these houses, and I love to answer any questions you might have of the houses. You can also find, if you go to Instagram, I created a hashtag called Quarantine Dream House Machine. So basically the whole houses and everything that's related to these houses and this project is posted on this hashtag page in Instagram. So you don't even have to go on my own personal account. I mean, you're more than welcome to follow me and do that, but you can also look for this project as a hashtag on Instagram. And yeah, I'd love to hear any questions you might have.
Great, thank you, Gal. My first question is, how many houses are there now total?
So far there are 28 houses. Yeah, I'm working on the 29. And yeah, I mean, people are welcome to send me descriptions. I mean, it is a very time-specific project for quarantine, right? It's not gonna be like an ongoing lifetime project. It's limited to the quarantine time because that's where it's coming from in terms of the motivation.
Yeah. Has anything surprised you, or like, I don't know, one of the things I'm really interested in with the project is that it's in some ways about isolation. I mean, like your own sort of quarantine experience, and also a lot of the people, there's an emphasis on people who are looking for more private space in the dream homes, but at the same time, the project's also very social in a way, or like interactive. How do you think about the sort of connectivity of the project, or like, are there aspects of that that have surprised you as you?
So I think it's both. I mean, at the same time, you want to socialize, but you also want to have the best possible ideal place to isolate in. It happens together, right? I feel that what connected and what made people so attracted to this project or this request is the fact that we are isolated, and it's like a collective experience to feel that feeling of where would I want to be? Where would it be comfortable for me? I don't want to be in my default place where I don't really have access to the things I want or I need. And it also emphasizes that our home in our usual life pre-COVID is such a limited space. It's a space taken for granted, right? Like we go back there every night, wake up there every morning, but usually our life is not domestic and it's not in the house, and all of a sudden it is, but it's not enough. I mean, my space that I'm supposed to live in and feel the most comfortable in is not making me feel good enough or fulfilled enough. So I believe it's a collective experience of how do I make myself feel comfortable? And the invitation to dream about it is something that it's a social invitation. That's the interactive aspect of this project.
Mm-hmm.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Watching all those that you presented, I feel like I met those people and learned a little bit about them and made not really a friend, of course, but this little connection with each one, that person who was willing to give you that very personal vision of the way they want to live in the home. And they're all very different, but then they all have this sort of common thing of they all want light, and they all want the nature inside and out. So I just found it really fun I felt like I was meeting these people, and I was visiting their dream house with them. That's just one comment I have, but I have a technical question. Like, is this totally going to stay digital media, or are you going to print them? Is the thought of printing these images?
Yeah, actually, it's a very good question. So first of all, I invite people who ordered those houses to print them out and hang it in their own bedroom or apartment. That's the first thing. I don't see it as a commercial project, but I do see it at some point will become like a book of Quarantine Dream House Machine, and then you can see the house and the description. Hopefully in the future, I will make that happen. And I agree with your comment about you met those people. I feel the same. I feel so humbled and honored to have these descriptions shared with me. And that's the greatest motivation these days for me to create, to receive the dream house. It's amazing. I mean, it's like people who don't even know me started sharing with me the most personal and intimate details of what would make them feel at home. I think it's great. Thank you.
So Marcia shared a question in chat, which actually was a question I had too. So what impact do you think the project will have on your painting and on your work moving forward? She's also wondering if you see an end to the project, and if you think you might continue working digitally now that you've started doing it.
Yeah, these are questions I'm asking myself every day I come here to my studio, how it's related to my own previous or current practice in my studio. And there's obviously a link or a connection. I also, in my paintings, I deal with houses, but instead of houses, like utopian, imagined houses, these are houses destroyed houses from my childhood landscape. So it's basically the exact opposite. Like these two projects, the hands-on painting project that I'm working on in the past few years, and the digital projects are like, if there were like a scale, there would be the opposite on the same scale. It's like utopia versus dystopia, or lost memories versus not yet created memories in a dream house. So yeah, I'm thinking about future projects and how to keep interact with my surroundings in my own creation, and to keep this dialogue alive. It's questions I'm thinking about constantly.
And Holly, who's our director, also had a question. She's wondering if most of the descriptions you got seem to be outside, sort of in away from like urban density, so in less dense areas.
I think most of them were in like rural, countryside, country life houses. There were houses that were like urban, but even those houses were asked to be with a garden, with vegetation. It's like all of the houses wanted, as Stephanie said, daylight and vegetation. All of them asked for it in one way or another. 80% asked it in a nature environment, and then let's say 20% in an urban or more, populated environment.
Yeah, it was funny when you were talking in the beginning about being in your apartment in New York. It did strike me that that's something that I think if you live in a city, you so often kind of, you get things, there are things that you sort of want in your life, but you get them outside of your house. So you're used to being out in public space a lot more. Maybe in New York more than any other city in the country, there's the expectation that you're just not going to be home that much. So you sort of don't look for these things. And I guess people have it, once you start saying, oh, you're going to have to be in this space all the time, what people are looking for.
Yeah, it sounds like in a way, like what happened pre-COVID, if we would be asked what would happen if you won't be able to leave your house, what would you want it to be? It's like, what would you take with yourself to an island, like 3 things you would take. Like it's kind of a situation, right? Like what do we need to have in our house, in our domestic environment? Mm-hmm. And obviously living in New York City is very different. It's like a very different house experience than living in countryside.
Mm-hmm. Are there other questions? If you can unmute if you want to and ask, or you can chat, either way.
Have you done your own dream house?
No, I didn't. I feel that in every one of these houses, there's my dream house.
Okay.
Also, I can't. It's too close. It's too close to envision. Okay. I'm happy to dream other people's dream houses. Even my wife has a dream house. She asked me, and I can't even approach that because it's so close. And I'm like, and she asks for unicorns and whatnot. She lives in fantasy, and it's like I'll get to it, but I can't now. I need to stay with a certain distance to be able to visualize and dream.
Okay.
Sure.
What feedback have you gotten, response have you gotten from people when you present the house to them?
So the people are so pleased, and this is what I like best about this project is that once I share and I tag the person who asked me, usually I do it at night, very late at night, because usually I finish those houses very late at night because I start them very late at night as well after I take care of my baby and I teach online or whatnot. The only time I had to do those houses was to begin at 9 p.m. and then I would finish it at like midnight and then I would post it. So most people who live in the States would see it the day after, and the people who live in Israel, a lot of them, because I'm originally from Israel, so a lot of the houses are from friends and family or people, not friends and family, but people from Israel. So they would see it like an hour later when it's morning there, and they would wake up to those houses, and then I would get those very immediate responses, and like someone just took photo of herself seeing it, she like and send it to me, or they would write, and like it's very touching and moving to see how these houses touch those people who asked it. I'm sure some of them, or even most of them, at least in the beginning, were not even expecting to receive anything in return. They just sent a description because even I didn't know what I would make out of it. So we just met people in a surprise point that was very fun and amusing.
Yeah, because we talked about this before, but you don't send it to people in advance, right? So they see it, you post it online, and that's where they see it for the first time.
Yes, I never. That is why it's a machine. I don't work differently from one person to another. I work the same. So the methodology of creating the house and of sharing it will be exactly the same. The most personal thing I would do is to make a comment with my sharing. If it's like somebody that I know, or I would say, I can't wait to visit you there, or something like that. But I would not console them. I would not follow up with any question upon their description. I would just work with what they would give me, and I'll share it on social media and tag them.
As we've been posting the descriptions along with the images on AAC's Instagram this week, and they're also on the website for the show. And it strikes me how some of them are so specific and some of them are very broad. Is there I don't know, is one of those sort of more challenging than the other, or do you approach them differently?
I think at the beginning, in the beginning, it was like, please give me minimalistic descriptions. I don't know what to do if you give me anything else. Now it's like, if you give me a minimalistic description, I would not know what to do with it. I mean, I need the details, and I also know, because yeah, it came together, right? My ability to create it, those houses came with the descriptions that I got. So now I feel that I know a lot, and it will be hard to minimalize myself to a description of like, I want a greenhouse. Okay, I don't know what to do. I mean, I can paint you a greenhouse, but I need more. But of course, I'll work with whatever I get, right? It's like that's how the machine works.
Mm-hmm. There's another question from Marcia, and it's actually, she was inspired by Stephanie's cat, who I think has popped up on the Zoom. Have you thought about putting animals or people in the houses?
Well, I've received houses that talked about the cats and dogs, and I'm a dog person. I have dogs, but because of that, I mean, I don't want to find myself create my own dog there, right? My German Shepherd dog or something. Again, it's something that it's too personal. So I think I would rather leave that out. When somebody asks for their dog, I mean, they have a dog. So if I create a dog that is not their dog, it's not their dog. I don't want to get to that point. But again, I create those houses with the thought of their dog in it or out in the backyard. So it is part of it, but no people and no animals are yet to be included so far.
Yeah. Are there any other questions about Quarantine Dream House Machine? I'm still getting used to saying it like all at once really quickly. Well, thank you so much. It's been really good, Gal, having you in the exhibition and seeing the work. It's been really exciting for me seeing how many artists are making new work right now, because it's such a challenging time. And I think, yeah, having been able to kind of bring something out like this is really, really exciting and really impressive. So thank you. And thanks to everyone for joining us. We are